Welcome, ghouls, to our 9th episode of Shrouded in Darkness. This is your true crime-obsessed host, Marlena, and I'm thrilled you've joined us. We'll kick things off with my usual disclosure. All the stories I share contain material that I have personally researched. Along with that material, I will share my own thoughts on the case. It is never our intention to offend or upset anyone. At Shrouded in Darkness, we're here to educate, discuss, and bring fresh light to cases. Today, we're diving into the unsolved case of Brandon Swanson. Here's a little background. Brandon Swanson was born January 30th, 1989 in Marshall, Minnesota. His parents are Brian and Annette Swanson. Brandon graduates from high school in 2007. He then attends West Community and Technical College in Candy, also in Minnesota, where he studies wind turbines. Brandon continues to live at home with his parents while he attends college. He also works part-time at a supermarket. Now here's what we know about the case. It's late at night on May 13th, 2008. It's the end of the spring semester, and Brandon has been celebrating with friends. He attends 2 different parties and enjoys some adult beverages. It's important to note that his friends do later say that he never appeared to be overly intoxicated. No one was worried about his condition to drive. So just bear that in mind as we continue into the story. Around 2 a.m. that same night, Brandon decides to call it a night and he heads home, traveling those all too familiar roads. Unfortunately, he does have a small accident and he gets his Chevy Lumina stuck in a ditch. He calls his parents for help. He's unable to pinpoint his exact location, but he does tell them that he's near Lind. And of course, like the great parents they are, without hesitation, they hop in their truck and head to their son. During this drive, they continue speaking to Brandon on his phone. Of course, he continues to wait at his vehicle. When they near the area in Lind where he's supposed to be, both parties start flashing their headlights, only neither can actually see the bright beams that's in the darkness. As no surprise, Brandon does grow a little frustrated. He offers to walk toward the town of Lind to find a better public area. He can actually see the town lights from where he's standing by his car. So as he is walking toward these lights, he's describing everything to Brian and Annette. He passes through fields. He crosses over fences. At one point, he hears running water. Brandon spots the local bar and asks his parents to find him in their parking lot. So now they have a definite destination they're going to, connect. At no point during this conversation between parents and son does Brandon sound confused or inebriated. There's no indication he's under the influence. There's no sound of head trauma from the accident. It's simply a normal conversation where Brandon just so happened to run into a little bad luck. Brian and Annette continue searching for their son, but have no luck finding him or his vehicle. All the while, they do stay on the phone together. This goes on for about 45 minutes. Suddenly, Brandon yells, "Oh shit!" and the phone disconnects. Of course, Brian and Annette quickly try to call the son back. They try to get back in touch with him, but he doesn't answer. Missed call after missed call. They never hear from their son again. At 6:30 a.m., the Swansons file a missing person report for Brandon. As we often see, the police are not very concerned. After all, they look at Brandon as a legal adult. He's a college student. He can go missing if he chooses to go missing. It's not till later in the day, after hours of pleading with the police department, when they finally pull up his phone records. It shows Brandon's last location was somewhere between Porter and Taunton, which is 25 miles away from Lind, where Brandon thought he was. This new search from his phone records does find his abandoned vehicle. So police scour the area. They bring in canines and aerial units. Land, river, everything is searched, but they find nothing. The dogs do find his scent, but it's lost at Yellow Medicine River. There's no signs of foul play, no car keys, no cell phone, only Brandon's glasses, which he's actually supposed to wear because he's legally blind in his left eye. So why would they still be at his car if he had been walking away? So that's kind of where that part of the case ends. We know nothing. There's no trace of Brandon whatsoever. 2 years later, in 2010, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension takes over this case. They set up a tip line, and by 2015, 5 years later, 90 leads have been reported. Even to this day, police still receive leads and tips. Unfortunately, though, as far as we know, they all have turned out to be dead ends. The latest report that I could find comes from 2021. A severe drought dries up that river where Brandon was last thought to be, which I'm assuming was Yellow Medicine River. Excavation teams come in, but they still find nothing. It seems efforts have never stopped since 2008. They continue to this day. Now, I did read something in one article, and I'm not entirely sure how accurate it is because I couldn't find any other details on it. But just in case, I did want to share this with you. This is about the canine units that were tracking Brandon's scent. According to this article, they took police to a piece of farm equipment. But the owner of said farm equipment refused to cooperate with the police. According to this article, this was something that they kept running into. Many of the locals refused to cooperate. They wouldn't let police search their property. And honestly, there was no substantial evidence linking to anyone specific or anyone's property, so they weren't able to obtain warrants. Now, continuing with the interesting facts, we do have some theories regarding Brandon's disappearance. Some believe Brandon fell into Yellow Medicine River and drowned. Others think he was kidnapped. Or maybe he really did disappear on his own. Some have even said he had a mental breakdown and chose suicide. Or could it have been a cold night and Brandon succumbed to the environment? That one's a little more doubtful considering this happened in May. This is such a baffling case. I think the hardest part to understand is how Brandon had no clue where he was. He had driven those same roads countless times. He obviously knew how to get from his college to his home, yet he was more than 20 miles off course. And most of the theories don't really make much sense to me. Drowning, suicide, hypothermia. There would have been evidence, or his body would have been found, his clothing, something. And if it happened to be suicide, then why would he have called his parents? How would the conversation have sounded so calm and casual? I am curious, though, about the last words he spoke. Reviewing the evidence, he never told his parents that he found a river, only that he could hear running water. So therefore, that's kind of an assumption that he found a river. But the canines, we know, did trace his scent across the river. So perhaps maybe the oh shit moment was him stepping into the river and being surprised by the cold. And so he dropped his phone. And I mean, that would explain that sudden disconnection. It would explain his outburst. But then I feel like his phone would have turned up somewhere. Okay, and then let's look at this bar he said he could see that he was going to walk towards. Do we know the name of the bar? Did something happen there? Is that where he got to when he says his last words? There's just so many things we don't know. And to completely vanish with absolutely no trace sounds impossible. What do you think? One final note about Brandon Swanson's case. After his disappearance and the nonchalant attitude of the police in the beginning, a new law was put into effect. Police are now required to immediately launch investigations when an adult goes missing, regardless of their age. This bill, called Brandon's Law, was signed May 7th, 2009. So despite everything, despite this missing person, despite the family's hole they now live with, something good did come out of it. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for listening. If you would like to learn more about Brandon's case, you can check out the same resources that I used. All That's Interesting, Wikipedia, and the Crime Wire. You can connect with us on Instagram at shroudedindarknesspodcast. Don't forget to share your feedback, give us your show ideas, and ask those questions. Catch next week's show where we're going to have a special guest and we're going to have a very special topic for our 10th episode. Until next time, we'll see you ghouls.